Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to Keshia Butler-Thomas. I had the pleasure of meeting her through a mutual friend. I instantly fell in love with her and her work, and I'm so excited to share just a little bit of her brilliance with you today. So let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we are going to get into all of the good stuff. So she is the founder and CEO of LCK Consulting Services, and she specializes in helping her clients develop digital marketing plans that incorporate the usage of social media as a brand awareness tool and revenue driver. She has over 10 years of digital marketing and sales experience across various industries, and she was voted one of New Jersey's top 40 under 40 executives. As if that was not all impressive enough, she is also an adjunct professor of social media and marketing at 3 colleges, and she is a speaker and host who you can find on streaming channels such as RVN TV and Boxcast, as well as her own YouTube channel. So all of that to say, she's the real deal. She really knows her stuff. And today we are going to be diving in and talking about how to up-level your digital brand voice. So Keshia, welcome. I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, Krista, thank you so much for having me. I, too, fell in love with you and all of your brilliance. And so I'm excited to be here with you today, spending some time with you and your audience and talking about the things I love the most, which is digital branding and social media marketing.
I love it. Okay, so let's dive right into digital brand voice. If somebody has not heard that term before, we all have a digital brand voice, but maybe they don't really know what that is. What is a digital brand voice and why is it important?
So essentially, your digital brand voice is your brand's personality in the digital marketplace. It's really the unique way that you present yourself and your business to the world. And it needs to be consistent through all communications because it really ultimately does serve as your digital networking card. So anytime we are looking to learn more about a company, oftentimes, we look to understand their morals, values, and beliefs, and that is all wrapped up in your brand's tone.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what are some of the mistakes that you see businesses make with this? Because I feel like this is something that you want to do with intention, but I bet a lot of people don't even really think about it, and they have almost an accidental brand voice. So what are some of the mistakes that you see?
So some of the biggest mistakes especially with smaller businesses and solopreneurs, is the fact that most solopreneurs are what I refer to as passionpreneurs or purposepreneurs, right? And so they're doing the thing that they love because they love it. But a lot of the times they didn't even recognize that this thing that they love was going to become this living, breathing business. And so because they didn't start out that way, foundationally, they haven't set the intention behind their business or their brand, thus not having a clear mission, vision, or value statement. And ultimately, the tone or voice of your brand is directly connected to those 3 things. And so often when we are having the pleasure of working with new clients, the first couple of questions that I'm asking is, what is your mission? What is your vision for the company? And what are your values? And oftentimes people pause because they're not quite sure as it relates to their business. Because for some, your business mission, values, and vision is different than your personal. And so we need to be very clear about which are the ones that we are going to be sharing with the world so that we can show up with a consistent brand tone that really does represent our zone of genius.
Yeah, I love that. And I do think it's so important. And people just get going. Like you said, they're passion fueled. They're like, let's do this. They're doing work they love. And then all of a sudden, I'm sure it probably feels like they barely have time to keep up with what they have, let alone carve out the space for this. And so, if somebody is at that place, are there any tips that you can give for how to really get clear on what your mission, vision, and values are for your business?
Absolutely. I have to say, please give yourselves permission to pause. As someone who has once been a solopreneur, well, really a side hustler, then a solopreneur, and now an entrepreneur, throughout those transitions, in full transparency, it was tough to give myself permission to pause and really reset and get focused on the things that matter for longevity. It always felt like if I stop, if I take my foot off the brake, if even just for 1 week, I may be missing out on my next opportunity. But the truth of the matter is, as someone who's been an entrepreneur for as long as I have been, I've come to learn that it's in those moments of pause and pivot that we really feel the greatest impact. And so give yourself an opportunity to get together the foundational properties of your company so that it can be a long-term, thriving, successful business.
Yes, so good. So good and so important. I agree. And it can you can feel like the world is going to fall apart if you pause for a second, but you're actually slowing down to speed up in a really big way. And I would imagine if you're focused on mission, vision, and values, you're going to speed up in a way that's much more in alignment anyway.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Because when you are in alignment with yourself, the product that you produce is more in alignment with your zone of genius.
Brilliant. All right. So there's a statement that I found on your website that I loved. And I felt like this so beautifully summarizes the work that you do. So, what you had said was we help our clients develop compelling content for their brand platforms that helps them convey who they are, what they do, and what makes them amazing. And I think that that's such a beautiful and very crystal clear statement, which I love. Clear that you help people with this. But that being said, I kind of want to pick it apart and dive into a couple of those concepts because what you just outlined is what all of us want when we show up online, right? And
Yeah.
so the first piece I want to dive into is the compelling content. So, what can a business do to make the content that they're producing be more compelling?
Yeah. So content needs to really be three things, right? It needs to be entertaining, it needs to be engaging, and it needs to be educational. And so, no matter if you choose to have a more comedic style or a more stoic style, it's still very important to incorporate those three aspects in every piece of content that you create. There are plenty of profiles out here that I think are hilarious, but they are educating their communities about something that is very crucial to their needs, right? And anytime we are missing any of those pieces, whether it's educational, engagement, or fun, right? We are going to miss the mark. And so we really help our clients to strategically position themselves based on the brand personality and making sure that they hit each of those very three important notes.
Yeah, that's so smart and good to kind of keep in mind. And I really like the way that, you position in the style that you want. I feel like sometimes people show up so serious and then you have a conversation with them and they're fun and they're laughing and there's jokes. And it's like, none of this comes out when I see what you post online.
And a lot of that too is because, Krista, for those of us, myself included, who are more seasoned, and I will contribute the fact that I don't look as seasoned to water and great genes. We were taught that we needed to present in a very stoic way in order to be successful. And so it's way more difficult to unlearn behaviors than to learn new behaviors. And so a lot of what we're seeing, especially from those of us who are millennials, geriatric millennials, and older, is simply what we've been taught our whole lives. And so, kind of breaking that mold and being a little bit different feels uncomfortable, but it could actually be the one thing missing from your brand to really help you excel.
Yeah, and I love that you shared that because I know for me, I've spent the past 22 years consulting in corporate. And what do you do in corporate, right? Every memo gets reviewed and you get feedback and you have to like strip all personality out of everything. And it's very factual and it's very brief and it's very concise, but not concise in a like great for for your market perspective, more like a strip any bit of fun or personality out of it. And when you come from that background, it's really hard to turn that off. You naturally edit yourself as you write because it's what you've been taught and just like trained repeatedly to do. So
Mhm.
it takes a lot of intentionality to kind of shift that and be like, no, no, I can say this and it can
Yeah.
actually sound like me.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, when I made the decision to cut all my hair off 3 years ago and dye it blonde, and, I threw away all of the black suits and white shirts that I owned, people thought I was having a midlife crisis. And I'm like, no, I'm stepping into my power. And my power is me showing up authentically as myself every single day. At the end of the day, Krista, we have a funny joke in my office with my team where I wear a lot of wacky clothes and stuff because that's just how I feel. I feel joy, and so I dress like joy. And so my team will say, they'll be like, well, she writes the check, so she gets to wear what she wants. It's a joke, but it's really true. When you're in this space of entrepreneurship, remember that you own the entire experience. The entire brand is yours, and so important to show up in the way that makes you feel good.
Yeah, I love this conversation so much. And I remember, I mean, I'm kind of a hippie. I look like a hippie. I wear big flowy tops. I have my nose pierced. I am way too old to have my nose pierced, but I don't care. That's just me. But I've had so many people try to tell me I need to show up different. Oh, you can't put that ad out in that shirt. Nobody's going to take you serious. Oh, if you wear that, nobody's going to take you serious. And I'm like, but I'm me and I'm not going to wear some stuffy suit or change who I am for it. Like it or don't, I have way more experience than most people, like the joy of being seasoned. And the right people will come. I'm not going to change who I am to put up an ad so somebody takes me serious and reads it. I'm just not doing it.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, I continue to get that advice all the time.
People have given up on giving me that advice because they know it's not happening.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I will continue to ignore that advice. But speaking of this, conveying who you are, right? I think, we hear all the time about authenticity and everybody should be authentic and you should show up as your authentic self. And I don't think anybody for the most part who's listening to this podcast for sure, intentionally shows up inauthentically, right? I think we all
Mhm.
want to show up authentically. So, what do you think keeps people from showing up fully as their authentic self beyond some of the things that we've talked about already?
I think it's important to remember that social media as a whole, for the majority of users, is a very curated space. And anytime you are curating spaces, you are going to lose a level of authenticity if you are not careful. And so, as businesses and brands, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, even CEOs, when we are spending time in the digital space, especially if we are interacting with colleagues, other industry leaders, those who we look up to, there's always going to be a part of us that does that comparison thing. And it's the comparison that forces the curated content that then removes the authenticity from who we are. So, one of the things that I highly suggest is do not follow your colleagues in the industry. And I know that that is contrary to what everyone else says, but I do not follow any other marketing firm or brand strategist. I don't do it because I am doing things the Keshia Butler-Thomas way, and I don't want to be in the slightest bit influenced by the way in which someone else does it. And understand that for those who are listening, the influence doesn't mean that you're going to copy them. But it does mean that if you see something that strikes you as helping to lead to their successes, any natural human who wants to be successful is going to take a look at that and say, how could I potentially leverage this, manipulate this, work with this to make it make sense for me and my brand to help move us forward? And so understanding social media as a whole, really helps us to maintain our authenticity.
Yeah, that's so smart, and I love that you don't follow competitors. And I've done that too. If you if you look at the accounts that I follow on social media, it's funny. I follow like fashion brands, and I follow every kind of tropical destination brand imaginable. But it's, the only other business owners that I follow are my clients. They're my clients or my friends, and I had to change that because even if I wasn't intentionally ever being influenced, you can't help but look around and be like, wait a minute, all these people are doing this. I'm not doing this. Should I be doing this? And I just found, even if I decided not to do it, it just puts you in that place of, am I doing the right things when I know I'm doing the right things? I
Mhm.
don't need to question it. I know it. But the more you start seeing other people doing, I think you naturally do start to question yourself. So that's brilliant.
It's human. It's human nature. And I don't even refer to those who work in my industry as competitors. They're my colleagues, right? And that's because I really do stand firm in my authenticity in the way in which we produce for our clients at LCK. So I don't really believe that I have competitors. There are other people in my industry who are great at what they do. They are colleagues. I will cheer them on. I'll even refer them business, but they are not competitors. They are simply other people who play in the same sandbox.
I love it. Absolutely. So, how can somebody show up more authentically as themselves and more clearly convey who they really are if they feel like maybe today there's a little bit of a disconnect?
Yeah, so I think a big piece of that goes back to what we were talking about originally. Understanding who you are through your business's mission, vision, and values, right? That will really allow you to stay aligned when you're creating content. Again, whatever kind of content it may be. It may be something very serious, it might be something really funny, it might be something in the middle. But no matter what that is, for as long as you are always making sure that at the root of that, it's educational, inspirational, and engaging, as well as it's directly tied to your mission, vision, and values, you'll be perfectly fine.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. All right. So, the other piece of what you had said that I want to dive into a little bit is, you had talked about people communicating what they do. So, sharing what they do and sharing how they're amazing. And I know for some people that can probably make them a little uncomfortable. Not everybody is comfortable sharing even what they do, never mind why they're so amazing and why somebody should hire them. Others have no problem with it. But that being said, how can you consistently communicate to your audience about what you do, about why you're different, about why you're so flippin' awesome, but do it in a way that doesn't come across as salesy and it's something that's compelling that people actually want to read?
So I think it's directly in alignment with understanding what social media is for your business, right? So the way in which we think about social media is typically very personal, right? This is my personal space where I come and I interact with others and, I share some stuff, they share some stuff, I like some stuff, they like some stuff. This is the way that this medium works. But as a business brand or influencer, social media is a tool for you to be able to convey what you do to ultimately do four things: reach more people, make them aware of what you do, gain clients, and retain clients. That is what it's for. So, if you remove the personal aspect out of social media and simply replace it with those four campaigns, it then becomes a whole lot easier for you to broadcast what it is that you do because you understand that it's no longer a personal tool, but rather a business tool and a vehicle for you to ultimately drive revenue for your company. And one thing that my father told me prior to his passing, he was a serial entrepreneur. He used to always say, if you have a business that is not making money, you have a wonderful hobby. And so if you are using social media as a way to make money so you can have a business, you are going to have to allow yourself to leverage that by talking about your offering. One of the biggest misses on social media is not asking for the sale. Now, asking for the sale does not have to be, to quote one of my very good friends, Annie P. Ruggles, sleazy, right? But you do have to ask for it. And asking for it may not be asking for dollars and cents, but it may be inviting someone to an event that you're having completely for free so that they can experience you. It may be having someone visit your website so that they can learn a little bit more on their own and make their own decision as to if they want to engage with you further. But understanding that that's why we're here. And anybody who's looking for a product or a service on social media knows that's why you're there. And so a lot of the times that helps my clients feel a little bit more comfortable about talking about what they have when we remove the personal aspect of social media and replace it with the fact that this has now become a vehicle for you to grow and expand your brand.
Yeah, that's such an important perspective shift. And I think it's just so often we make everything so personal, and it's easy to make it personal because we're passionate about what we do, because our business and our life tend to blend in so many ways because of that deep passion. But it's true. Why are we on social media? For most of us, it's not just for fun. It's truly to drive revenue. It's to connect with our clients. It's to do the four things that you shared. So I love that perspective shift.
Yeah. I truly believe it. And hey, if you want to use social media for your personal, then have a personal page and do that. I reserve Facebook for my friends and family. I do not allow any business stuff on my personal Facebook page. And I do that because I do want that space where I get to, have that interaction. But business happens every place else.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. So are there any other kind of perspective shifts that you think are really helpful for people when it comes to digital marketing or their digital brand voice?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I always suggest to everyone who I encounter is giving themselves permission to really be who they are. A lot of people say, "Oh, I want to be who I am, but I'm nervous about this or that." When you really step into the power that is who you are, you will see the greatest shifts happen in your business and in your life in totality, because we know, as you mentioned, Krista, our businesses are really directly connected to our lives, right? It's our livelihood. And so with that, when we are flourishing there, we are going to flourish everywhere in our lives. And so I always encourage everyone to really, really give yourself that full bodied permission to step into your real power. That is who you are.
Brilliant. All right. So tell us a little bit more about what you do with your clients, about your business and your work, and if you have anything exciting coming up.
Sure. So over at LCK Consulting Services, we are a full service strategic branding agency. And so what that means is that we help our clients in a lot of ways, but some of the main ways that we help them are in executive visibility, reputation and crisis management, social media strategy, branding, and advertising. My specialty is the crisis management portion, as we do work with a lot of solopreneurs and influencers. And as we know, it's 2022. We are living in the times of cancel culture. And so with that being said, we do a lot of crisis management, which I really love. It's like a human puzzle for me. And it really gets me going. So those are the ways in which we work with clients, and we do that in two ways. So we work with clients independently, and then we also do have some group offerings for those who prefer that co-creation and collaborative space. What we do have coming up is a new cohort of the Social Impact Incubator. That is a 3-month program where I actually teach weekly in the community how to build your brand from beginning to end. This program is really suited for people who have been in business for at least 3 years. And when I say in business for 3 years, they must have actually generated revenue in those 3 years. This program really is going to help them go from business to brand. As we know, there's a difference, right? And now that we're on social media and we're using social media to be able to drive these things, the differences have become more apparent. And so in that program, I teach people about brand voice, about brand tone, about brand identity, different types of logos, and how to pitch for opportunities to grow your brand.
I love it. And I think I love that mark too, because, when you're first starting out, like we shared earlier on, sometimes you're kind of just falling into things. And that feels like that right time in your business where you're really ready for growth and really ready to get serious and carve out that true brand. So, what a great offer and what a great opportunity for people to get to work with your brilliant brain to be able to do that.
Well, thank
I
you so much.
So now, where can people find you if they want to follow you? If they want to kind of get themselves connected in your world, where's the best place to go?
So you can find me everywhere in the world as Keshia Butler-Thomas, except for on Twitter because there is that 15 character limit. So I'm Keshia B. Thomas on Twitter. But every place else in the world, you can find me at as Keshia Butler-Thomas. You can visit our website, which is lckconsultingservices.com. However, we also own KeshiaButlerThomas.com because I'm everywhere in the world as Keshia Butler-Thomas. So you can connect with me in any of those spaces. I am the only person who answers my DMs on Instagram. So if you have a burning question, I'm always happy to answer those. And I will do that in DM on Instagram 24 hours a day, except for the few hours I snag to sleep. I promise I will answer you there, but I'm happy to connect absolutely anywhere.
I love it. All right. So there is a question I ask every guest, and I cannot wait to hear what you have to share. And that is, in your business, how do you work smarter, not harder, and keep things lean?
Well, I must say, this has taken years for me to figure out. I'm going to be very clear. And what I do to stay lean is probably the simplest thing, but it's been a paradigm shift for me in my business. I color code my calendar and I put everything in there. So from business meetings to date nights with my husband to the dog's grooming to my haircut appointments, everything goes into my calendar and it is color coded. It has been monumental in helping me to stay on track, and also helping me to feel organized and balanced throughout the day. I can easily look at my calendar either on my phone, my computer, my iPad, whatever device I'm using. I know exactly what category the next thing is in. It allows me to prepare appropriately. And in that, I also schedule 30 minutes in between every meeting that I have. It is mandatory for me. Number one, I drink a gallon of water a day. I need bio breaks. Number two, I need brain breaks sometimes. And so I have worked that into my day. And it's been amazing. Not to mention my business schedule, the LCK schedule, does not start until 10 a.m. in the morning, right? As my team says, I write the check. So we don't open up our doors until 10 a.m. And I do that because I need that time in the morning. The mornings are really the time where I recalibrate. I do my administrative stuff. I do all the things that I need to do before walking into my office. And so managing my calendar appropriately has just been everything for my business.
I love that tip. And you are the first person I've ever heard that does that, because I do that as well. And it is the greatest thing on earth. I can look at my calendar, and even without seeing what's on it, just looking at the colors, I'm so used to what the ratio of things should be. I can super quickly look at it and be like, I don't have enough time on there for self-care. I don't have enough protected space for this. I don't have enough prospecting calls this week. I don't even have to look at what's on there. I can just visually, by looking at the color, instantly see it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Game changer.
yeah, completely. I love that. All right. Final question is, if somebody really is committed to up-leveling their digital brand voice, it's something that's important to them coming up in the next 90 days. Any tips that you have for them on what to focus on or where to start?
First thing to focus on is the look of your brand. I refer to social media marketing for businesses as Tinder, right? So before we decide to swipe right, we look at the photos, right? And so for you as a business, that looks like, do you need to update your logo? Do you need to update the color scheme that's on your website? Is everything clean and crisp and telling one story across all platforms? Do you have the same profile images on all of the different platforms that you utilize for your business, right? Do you have your slogan, the same slogan on every single platform? All of those little details matter, because when somebody Googles you or finds you on a social media site, if they're interested in you, they're going to continue to look. And if the story that you're telling on each platform does not match up, that diminishes your brand.
Yeah, so true, so important. And I think it's always good to do a good audit. But even in that, you just shared some things where I'm like, I don't know if I have the same picture on all those platforms. Maybe I need to go check that out. So I love that advice. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like we could just talk for days and days and days about all of the amazing things you have going on. The links will be below in the show notes. Please make sure that you go check out Keshia and all of her amazing work. Thank you again for being here, and maybe we'll have you back again for another conversation later this year.
So thank you so much again for sharing your platform with me and allowing me to come on and talk about the things that I love.
I love it. All right, everyone. I hope you loved this interview as much as I did. I will see you again next week. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. I hope you got a lot of value and actionable insights from today's show, and would love if you take a moment to leave us a review. If you have any questions on today's episode or on how to lean out your business, join us over in our private Facebook community, where every week we do live training and Q&A, and I'd love to have you be part of the conversation. Head to leanoutmethod.com/group to join us. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to the show so you're the first to know when we release a new episode. We'll see you next week.